Hello! I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours. And I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour, because you gotta pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you.
I usually give it a couple days after an event happens before I record one of these videos, just because I want to give it time to solidify in my mind and really, come together as a story and not just a series of chaotic events. But guys, I have got to tell you about the absolute WTF that was tonight. Okay, so first and foremost, I had a group that I knew was going to be a bit of a problem before we even got started, because tonight was one of those nights that we were dividing amongst 3 tour guides. And the first group went out with the first tour guide, and before he is even done with the rules, a pair of his are coming over to chat with us, and they walk over, and the first words out of the guy's mouth is, "Who's in charge here?" And luckily, our manager was here tonight, so he got to step forward and be like, "Me?" And then the guy's like, "I don't want to go with that crackhead." And we all sort of did that, like, oh my God moment, because this guy, the tour guide, is not a crackhead. He is tall and gangly and he talks really fast, but that does not a crackhead make. And the manager is, of course, very polite and very, diffusing and like, okay, no, we'll put you with another tour guide. How many are with your group? And he's like, oh, there are 3 of us, but there's one other person. And it's like, okay, cool, that's fine. We'll put you with another group. It's fine. And meanwhile, me and the other tour guide that will probably have this pair are sitting there rock, paper, scissoring over who gets them. And I lose the draw, so they're with me. And I really expected them to be horrifically bad throughout the tour, and they weren't. They were a bit chatty, and every time I got near them and could do small talk, they wanted to talk about how much they hated the other tour guide and claimed that the manager was a bit rude to them. But other than that, they were fine. They laughed a bit at the Lala Mansion, which I don't like, but they could have been laughing at something else. I let it go. It's fine. And then they chat with me after the tour's over. Super polite, super friendly. Like, oh my God, I've defused this bomb. Life is good. And I'm halfway back to the car when I get a message from the office, from the manager, asking me if, quote, the bearded guy had left early. And I assume it's the bearded guy that had been complaining about John, because he did have a beard. It wasn't much of a beard, but it was a beard. It was pretty clean shaven. But there was a beard there. So I was like, oh, no, he actually stayed with me the entire time. This is what happened. He complained a bit. Otherwise, he was fine. And they were like, no, not that bearded guy. And I was like, okay, do you mean the guy who arrived late? Because I think he might have left. I know I lost someone because I started with 18. A guy arrived late, which puts me at 19. And then when I got to the bar break, I only counted 18. So I know somebody left. And they're like, no, not him. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, this guy was vaping and he had a girlfriend with tattoos. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. Okay, yeah. They might have left early. I don't know. I didn't really interact with them all night. And that's when the other shoe drops. Turns out they had sent a message complaining to the office and demanding a refund because I discriminated against them for them being disabled and their religion, because I did not let them sit down and rest throughout the duration of the tour. And I'm like, what? Because, here's the thing. I interacted with them once the entire tour. And that's because we were going to Marie Laveau's. There's a house directly across from Marie Laveau's that the people who live there really do not want tours in front of it, so I always try to shift a little bit down. But the house next to that, the guy who lives there is perfectly fine as long as you're not blocking his gate. If you're blocking his gate, he will throw a fit. So as we're gathering in, I'm going, okay guys, gather towards the front. We can't block this guy's gate. He lives here. It's his home. He does not want us blocking his gate. And also it's against the law for us to block his gate. And there's that one pair in the back who arrived a little bit late, so I'm guessing they just didn't hear me say it the first time, but they go and lean directly on his gate. And so I have to pause. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, you can't lean on his gate. There's a guy that lives there. He does need to be able to access his house. And they take 2 steps to the right and just lean back against the building. And some tour guides will not let their guests lean against a building. But as long as they are not putting their feet all up on it, I don't see how a leaning against a building is going to hurt it. So I always just let them do it. And so, sure enough, I continued. And during that story, we had an older guest who sat down on the edge of the sidewalk, right on the edge of the street. And I always let people do that. If you want to sit on the sidewalk in New Orleans, you can on my tour, as long as you're not blocking the path. I don't care. I understand we're doing a lot of walking. But that was the only interaction I ever had with this pair. They never came up and asked me, can we sit? They never asked me, can we pause for a moment? And after I heard what they were saying, I racked my brain to be like, is there a moment that maybe someone was trying to signal that they needed to sit down and I just didn't hear them? But no, I've got nothing. And also, for the life of me, I do not understand how it could have been religious discrimination to ask them not to lean back against someone's gate. So, you know, sometimes you have people on the tour who are a problem, and it's just not the ones you thought. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out my book, Drunks of the French Quarter Theater, available on Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, pretty much wherever.